Rica Estabillo, and I am here to report or to tackling about the three degree of comparison using the adjective. First, we modifies what is adjective. Adjective it is modifies the noun and pronoun. Let's for an example, sweet, beautiful, hard, soft. That is referring to a certain noun or pronoun. So adjective is also known as for indicating also a position on a scale of comparison. The lowest point on a scale is known as the positive adjective or the positive form. The middle point is known as the comparative form, and then the highest point it is known as the superlative point or superlative form. So let's first know tackling about the positive adjective is. The positive adjective is the base form of adjective used to compare two or more nouns or pronoun. So the example of this is the pretty, the long, the hard, and the beautiful. So next one is comparative adjective. Comparative adjective is an adjective used to compare two nouns or pronouns, and we just simply add er into the adjectives its suffix, or we simply add more before the adjective. Superlative adjective is adjective used to compare three or more nouns or pronouns. We can simply add est or put most before the adjective. Again, the example of comparative adjective it is the prettier, longer, harder, and the most more beautiful. And the example of superlative adjective it is the prettiest, longest, hardest, and then the most beautiful. So, the other example is this. Wait lang. The other example is this book is long. So, the word long is the adjective form of positive adjective. So, it we want to form it into the comparative adjective. The positive adjective we might put or we add er to make it a comparative adjective. So this book is longer than that book. And to make it a superlative adjective, we put an est. So the example is this is the longest book. Another example is Philippines is a beautiful country. The word beautiful is an adjective, and um, to make it comparative adjective, we put a more before the noun. So, or the adjective. Philippines is more beautiful than Canada. And to make it a superlative form, Philippines is the most beautiful country. So, and for this, we cannot just simply add er. We cannot just simply add est or more or most because there is a few or some rules to follow. The first one is for adjectives that are just one syllable, just we simply add er. So the example of one syllable it is long or hard. This word has a one syllable, so we just simply add er to make it comparative or superlative. So, for example, long to make it comparative, we just simply add er to make it longer, to make it comparative. To make it superlative again, we just simply add est to make it superlative. That is the longest. And then for two syllables, adjective that's ending in y, and for all three or more syllable adjectives, add more plus the adjective. So if it is the adjective has a two syllable and not ending in y, and the adjective has a three or more syllable, we just simply add or more plus the adjective. So the example of this the the word beautiful. Beautiful has a three syllable. B-U-T has a four syllable. The beautiful. So, um, according to the rule, if there are two or more syllable, we just simply add more plus the adjective. So, to make it a comparative form, you just simply add more to make before the adjective. So, more beautiful. To make it superlative, most beautiful. So, another, for two syllable, um, adjective ending in y, change the y to I and add er. So, the example of this is the pretty. Pretty has a two syllable and it ends with y. So, according to the rule again, to make it a comparative, um, we change the y and to I and add er. So, it becomes prettier for the comparative. And to make it a superlative, it becomes prettiest. And another example, heavy. Heavy has a two syllable and it ends with y. So heavy, when y, we change y into I and add er to make it a comparative. So heavier or heaviest. So no, it is important to know that there are irregular adjective or adverb that you have to memorize because they don't follow the rule. So irregular verb or irregular adjective is exemption to this rule. The example is the good, bad, far, little. So this is for the positive adjective, and to make it in the comparative adjective, it is the good is becomes better, the bad becomes worse, the far becomes farther or further, the little becomes less. So to make it a superlative, the good better becomes best, the worst become worst, the farther become the farthest, the further it become the furthest, and the less become the least. So um, another example in the regular adjective is in the sentence. Today I had the best time touring the city. Best is in the word the adjective best is in the superlative adjective. So the comparative adjective of best is better, and in the positive adjective of best is the good. So the second example is you bought the least attractive pair of moccasin. When we say moccasin, it is a flat shoe that is dito. Moccasin is a flat shoe that is made by a soft leather. So at the thrift store, the word or the adjective place it is in the also in the superlative. So this the to become um, the least to become a comparative adjective, it is less, and the little is the positive adjective. The last example is I went farther than my friend when we walked around the park. So the word farther it is in the form of comparative adjective. So to make it if we want to um if we want the farther is in the positive adjective, it becomes a far. Alright, for example, our house is far in the city. If we want to the farther becomes the superlative. We transform it to the farthest. Um, for example, Mindanao is farthest in the um, Luzon, and that's all. And I hope that you would learn a lot of my discussion. Thank you.